Today on Hearts of Heroes, we'll witness some of the most intense fire rescues from a raging inferno in an apartment complex.
I looked up and there was the glow and the fire shooting off that fourth floor balcony.
To a colossal blaze that threatens dozens of people at a senior living facility.
She was scared. You know, there was a lot of smoke in the room.
Heroes of all kinds will join together to save the communities that they love.
With no time to lose, first responders were doing everything they could to get to those in need.
When a two-alarm fire broke out in an apartment complex in Glenmore, Pennsylvania, it became one of the biggest fires that local station had responded to in more than 50 years. And get this, inside the burning apartment building, 2 people were actually volunteer firefighters from that very same station. Their decisions and bravery that morning certainly saved lives and homes.
40 miles from Philadelphia, Glenmore, Pennsylvania is a close-knit community that always looks after each other. That feeling is amplified at the local fire department.
I just love being around the guys and the girls of the company. Just the camaraderie, it really truly is like a family.
For fireman Ross Trago, it's literally a family tradition.
My grandfather and father were firefighters, so one day I decided I wanted to follow in their footsteps.
Craig and Ross not only work side by side for the fire department, they also happen to live in the same large apartment complex in town. Little did they know that they would have to come to the rescue of their own neighbors and their own homes early one morning in 2019.
Building's on fire! Out of the building!
The night of the fire, we were all here. Monday night, it's our drill night. Jokingly, we all say to one another, we'll see you at the big one.
He had no idea how true those words would be. It was 1:45 in the morning and fire alarms started sounding. Craig immediately jumped into action.
So I walked around out front and I looked up and there was the glow and the fire shooting off that fourth floor balcony.
At the same time, Ross Trago was also awakened by those alarms.
It happens a lot up there at the apartment, so I didn't think anything of it until I walked outside and Craig yelled that there was a building fire in the complex. You could see the glow in the sky, and then that's when I realized it was our building.
Once Ross was sure that his fiancée was safely evacuated from the building, he started helping other people escape.
The building's on fire!
You got 4 floors of residents. We need to, work to get everyone out as fast as possible.
Just lay down these steps, please.
As the flames engulfed the building, fire and police backup showed up and jumped into hero mode.
I got out of my car and ran to the first floor section of the apartment and started banging on doors, making my way up to the next floor where I met 2 other officers from a neighboring department. And we just continued through the apartment, knocking on doors.
Police department! Police department, building's on fire!
The crew certainly had their hands full. They had to try to put out the fire, but first and foremost, get everybody out safely.
Let's go, now, it's burning.
That's what we call organized chaos. Dealing with frantic people. There could be pets that are still in the building that they can't get out.
Despite their own homes being at risk, Craig and Ross knew they had a job to do.
That's what we prepare for. We prepare for being woken up in the middle of the night and having to go. You don't know what you're getting called to until you actually get there.
Without a doubt, our awesome crew that we had that night didn't second guess it one bit. In they went, they split up, forcing doors, checking apartments.
After hours of fighting the blaze, the fire was finally out. And miraculously, everyone made it out safely. But when the smoke had cleared, Craig realized that he and his wife lost their home.
That was an eye-opening experience in terms of just, things that we had, developed together and built for 5 years at that point, that was gone.
Recently, country singer Lee Brice, along with Sheldon Yellen from our sponsor Belfour, had a chance to personally thank the first responders of the Glenmore Fire Department.
Mr. Sheldon Yellen is here tonight, and he's got such a cool thing to do and to say tonight. So I hope it's cool. We invite him out on stage.
Thank you, Lee. And thank you, Chester County. At this time, I'd like you to please join myself and Lee and show an amazing show of gratitude. Chester County's finest, please come on up. On the count of three, I want to give an amazing thank you to our first responders of Chester County, from all of us to all of you. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, first responders of Chester County.
Coming up, a fire threatens one of the oldest churches in the United States.
I saw the steeple topple over and my heart sank. It was a very difficult thing to see.
But first, a safety tip.
If not properly used, many small everyday home items can unfortunately lead to disaster.
Listen, space heaters need space. In many homes, they're necessary, but can also cause fires if too close to other items. Of course, we need to be warm in the winter, but no one wants to cause a house fire, so please give them space.
Listen to the pros when it comes to fire safety. They've seen it all and know all too well how tragedies happen. It's our responsibility to make sure we all have a safer future.
Structure fires can erupt in just a matter of minutes and consume everything fast. And they're especially terrifying when they are threatening a historical landmark full of irreplaceable artifacts, like it did in 2018 in one Virginia community when the centerpiece of their town went up in flames.
Established in 1752, the city of Portsmouth, Virginia has quite a few buildings that date back to the colonial era, including monumental Methodist Church. With its distinctive steeple, it holds a place of both historical and spiritual significance.
There are people in this church that are third and fourth generation members, and this church means so very much to them that it's actually part of their family.
But all of that was threatened one January afternoon in 2018 during some routine building upgrades. As workers left to take a lunch break, the unthinkable happened. The church caught on fire.
We went out in front of the building, looked up, and could see a little teeny bit of smoke from the base of the steeple. And we're like, man, okay, this ain't gonna be too bad. And the time I got about halfway up the street, the whole thing kind of lit off at one time.
It reminded me of a Roman candle, a big, giant Roman candle.
It looked exactly like the spire on Notre Dame. It was totally engulfed in flames, and it was heart-wrenching to see that.
So I'm looking up, I'm walking lively because, you know, you have a steeple, you didn't know what it was going to do, so it's going to fall on my head.
I saw the steeple topple over and my heart sank. It was a very difficult thing to see.
And they were just pouring water onto the building, and the people in the parking lot, the expressions on their faces, I will always remember how people looked and how devastated they were by what was going on.
The church risked losing everything inside, and yet one artifact in particular held great importance to the parish.
We have a Bible that survived the 1863 fire. It was the pulpit Bible at that time, and we kept it on a lectern in the corner of our sanctuary. We were trying to stay out of the firefighters' way, but I went up to one of them and said, if you can, when you go back in, could you please try and bring that Bible out?
Joyce didn't realize it, but firefighter Matthew Buck had already rescued the Bible and removed it from harm's way.
I had seen it my first time into the sanctuary, and it looked old, and it was a big, giant Bible. So I was like, that's neat, it's getting destroyed. So I just grabbed it on my way out.
It's a symbol of our faith, a symbol of our resilience.
Roughly an hour and a half after the building caught fire, the flames were finally extinguished. The question now, would there be anything left of their beloved church?
It's hard to explain when you see something like that and the fear of it being gone.
Immediately following the fire, the rebuilding and restoration process started, and it took nearly 2 years to complete, including a brand new steeple.
We are certainly hoping that this is an opportunity for people to become more aware of Monumentals so that Monumentals' mission and outreach can reach more people.
Coming up, when a beloved pet is trapped in a raging house fire, her owner must make a life or death decision.
There was fire, smoke. I heard the dog crying for help. I just had to get out and go in there and get her.
If you talk to anyone who's been the victim of a house fire, they can tell you it is one of the most traumatic experiences in life. You can lose almost everything. Family photos, family heirlooms, and that sticks with you for a long time. But there are also always caring heroes who are going to step in and help out when tragedy hits.
Burlington, New Jersey is a suburb just outside of Philadelphia. With a population of just 9,000 people, this is a small town steeped in rich history.
I grew up in Burlington, New Jersey. It is a very small town. It's a historic area. We lived in the area where you could walk downtown to restaurants and shops.
But in 2018, Rosalie Schoonover's life changed forever when her son, John, arrived home and found their home engulfed in flames. He got his mom out, but their dog, Eva, was trapped inside.
So I got out of the car, and when I walked in, it was just a different atmosphere completely. I couldn't see anything. There was fire, smoke. The smoke detectors were going off. I heard the dog crying. It was wild.
The heavy smoke and flames made it almost impossible for John to see where the dog was. His guide was to follow the sound of her bark.
I didn't see the dog until I was probably a foot next to her.
With no time to spare, he found Eva cowering on the couch, but the flames were growing stronger.
She was terrified. She was just frozen, so I had to pick her up. I carried her probably like 15 feet maybe, and then she jumped out of my arms and ran out of the house.
Fortunately, John and Eva made it out safely. Next, John made a frantic call to 911. When Brent Tomer and his crew arrived, the situation was dire.
There was fire out of every window in the front door.
With the fire raging, Brent and his crew did everything they could to save the house.
There was a door on the side of the house. We were able to get in through the kitchen and start attacking the fire. Then we went to what's called master streams, which would be ladder trucks and deck guns.
When John's stepfather made it to the scene, he was thrown right into the middle of a nightmare.
It's hard to describe the thoughts, because you're not sure of the future at that point. And everything that you've had and everything you own and all your memories are sitting in that house, and it's all just going up in flames.
While firefighters did conquer the blaze, the damage was just too great. The Schoonovers' home had to be bulldozed. Our sponsor, Belfour, was immediately brought in to help out.
The request was made, is there any chance somebody can go in there and try to retrieve some things before the property was demoed?
With only 24 hours before the house would be leveled and everything lost, Belfour sent in Trevor Hayden. Trevor enlisted the help of the Schoonover's son, John, to help take pictures and be a guide to locating family heirlooms.
I was just taking my pictures, my videos, and he was helping a lot, actually. He was making us seem like it wasn't as bad as it was.
There wasn't much left, but Trevor and John did manage to save some photo albums, as well as some precious family mementos from Rosalie's parents.
I had one piece of antique jewelry that was my grandmother's that I displayed on my dresser. He also went in the dressers and got anything that seemed sentimental. One of the things that I would not even remembered I had was a box from my dad who had passed away. Months afterwards, the person I really wanted to thank was Trevor, because he was the first one to help us. He was there. He brought calm to our lives. I think everybody should appreciate you and everyone at your company, but you came up, you sort of took us out of the chaos and let us know everything was going to be okay, and we're forever grateful for that.
Coming up,
firefighters have to rush into the burning fire.
These people were in wheelchairs. These people needed walkers to walk.
But first, another safety tip.
Installing smoke alarms in your residence is essential in protecting you and your loved ones from a fire. But there's more to an alarm than just the installation.
It's important to test your smoke alarms once a month and to change the batteries at least twice a year. This will ensure your protective devices will be able to do its job and warn you of danger.
Disaster can strike at any time. So be prepared to the best of your abilities. Shoulda, woulda, coulda are cliches no one wants to hear in reference to you or your family's safety.
A house fire is a nightmare scenario in most of our minds. Now imagine it happens at a senior living facility with more than 90 people inside, some of whom can't even get out on their own. Well, thankfully, in this situation, the staff put on their capes and became heroes, joining the first responders in getting everyone out safely.
Upper Macungie Township is a small suburb of Allentown, Pennsylvania. With a population of around 20,000, it's small enough to have a neighborly feel, yet close enough to the city to offer modern amenities.
I feel it has a little something for everybody, whether you like the city living, country living, or if you're really into the hustle and bustle, it has lots to offer to a lot of people.
There's a real sense of community in this township, which also runs straight through the Heather Glen Senior Living Facility, especially since many of the people that live in Heather Glen are from Macungie Township.
I know a lot of our residents have roots in the Lehigh Valley and raised their families in it, so it's a wonderful place.
But one early morning in 2019, as the residents were asleep in their rooms, an enormous fire broke out. When first responders got the call, they knew they had their hands full.
In this situation here, we needed a lot of manpower because we had both a fire and we also had rescue operations, knowing that there were 80+ people in that facility and a lot of them were non-ambulatory.
Firefighters, along with the staff, evacuated people from the first floor. But there were still residents trapped on the second floor. Many of them were still asleep.
We're coming out and we hear there's victims trapped in the second floor, and our team just got right at it and we went right back to work.
Firefighters Nick Bosga and Jake Gallick rushed upstairs.
I'd say probably the biggest obstacle was locked doors. So every door needed to be forced before we made entry, which added time.
And then also we had to deal with a lot of people were disoriented because with the fire starting outside, it didn't trip the fire alarms right away. So 90% of the people were still asleep on the second floor.
It was a slow and dangerous process getting everyone out.
These people were in wheelchairs. These people needed walkers to walk. And you pretty much had to have 2 firefighters or 2 EMS to help each one of them out of the facility.
Meanwhile, Lieutenant Frank Kimball began ladder rescues. That required him to help one woman out the window who was too weak to climb out herself.
She was scared. You know, there was a lot of smoke in the room. She had a lot of water in the room. I had to step to the side so I could jump in to help her get her feet out so my partner, Justin, could carry her down the ladder.
One by one, they meticulously helped each resident to safety. Miraculously, everyone survived.
It was a real sigh of relief. Now we can focus on assuring that the fire's out and making sure that we get people to proper facilities for the rest of their care.
All the residents were safe and accounted for, but once the fire was put out, the building was unlivable. Now they'd have to face that arduous process of rebuilding. But only 4 short months after the fire, Heather Glen was up and running, and they celebrated a grand reopening.
On behalf of Heather Glen staff and residents, we'd like to welcome you to our new home. It's been a little over 4 months since we had our incident, and I can tell you right now, the building is better than ever.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, it's open!
You realize the police officers, the EMSs, the firefighters, that they're heroes. And then you have a new respect for them because they did something so heroic for us by saving our residents and those staff members that were in that fire. and that we'll be forever grateful for.
These communities and all of us are so fortunate to have these brave men and women that save us each and every day. Now, we all owe a deep debt of gratitude to all the first responders. I'm Ginger Zee. Thanks so much for watching.